from the Gloucester County Library System, and for this edition of Crafter's Corner, I'm going to show you how to make some really awesome dragon eggs. So these eggs make awesome decor items, and with Easter coming up, they also make for really neat just either decor to have on your table or to use even for Easter egg hunts. These are a really fun craft to make to supplement for your Easter egg hunt. You can have a smaller egg hunt in your house, and maybe instead of hiding your standard plastic eggs around, you can hide some really cool looking ones. So what I'm going to go over first are the materials, and then I'm going to do a demo on how to make them. One of the disclaimers that I have to include for this is that this craft is generally best suited for tweens through adults. So we're talking the ages of maybe 10 and up. The reason being is that the craft does involve using thumbtacks, and obviously they're sharp. You're going to want to well supervise any kids that are working on this. If you have younger kids that you want to work on it, sure, just make sure that they're really well supervised because you don't want them to get hurt while working on this. Some of the things that you'll need in order to do this craft are foam eggs. These are very, very prevalent right now, especially with craft stores because it is Easter, so you can very easily order them if you don't have them. They come in a variety of sizes. You can get some really large ones, but I recommend sticking with a smaller size. These ones are about 3 inches in height. You will also need thumbtacks. So this is a partially emptied box of thumbtacks. It came with about 300 of them. You will want, especially if you want to do multiple eggs, several hundred thumbtacks, because you're going to be surprised at how many of those you're going to wind up using for this craft. So what else you'll need is some really nice craft paint. This here is the Folk Art Color Shift. I'll try to get it in camera here. Paint. It is a metallic looking craft paint that actually does change colors in lighting conditions. So it goes from like gold to black for this one. I highly recommend using some sort of craft paint that has either sparkles in it or has a metallic finish. Something that has a little pizzazz, because since these are dragon eggs, you want them to kind of pop. And that's what I had done with both of these. These ones, which obviously I already have done, were used with a glitter paint. This one was a metallic finish glitter paint, and this one was more of a matte finish glitter paint. So they really give it the project, when it's finished, a great end result. I do not recommend at all using standard acrylic paint, especially if you have like professional style paint around, because that stuff does tend to be toxic. There may be heavy metals in it. You don't want to use standard paint. Just use craft paint like you would for painting wood or doing any other projects with kids. And the other thing is that you'll see other tutorials for this online, but they involve using nail polish. I do not at all recommend using nail polish. It smells horrendous in your house. And if you are going to use it outside where it's well ventilated and you have fresh air coming in. I did try doing this once with nail polish, and that was not at all fun. I had a horrible headache from the smell of that, so don't do that. One of the other things you'll want is some Mod Podge, which if you have kids, this is a really common crafting thing to have. This one is the gloss version, so that will give your end result a nice little glossy finish, but it will also hold the thumbtacks on. So that is a necessary part of it. The other smaller things that you'll need is something to put your paint in. I like to reuse little takeout containers as miniature paint palettes to hold paint. And you'll need a paintbrush. And one of the most important things that you'll need here is, and I have some already finished on here for the purpose of this craft, is a cork board or something similar. You need something that you can stick a bunch of thumbtacks in, because when you have the thumbtacks mounted to a surface, it's going to make it go a lot quicker. because you're going to be able to just paint them really fast right down each of these rows. And you're not going to have to worry about picking one thumbtack up at a time and trying to paint it, set it down, get another one. No, mount them all to a surface. So if you don't have corkboard, I highly recommend using styrofoam from maybe some packing materials that you had around. You can use cardboard, floral foam if you have that around. Anything that you can push thumbtacks in. Now that we've kind of gone over the materials, I'm going to go over the demo of how to make one. The first thing that you are going to want to do is mount your thumbtacks to the board. So I have some pre-finished ones here, but for the purpose of this demo, I'm going to go through and demonstrate starting fresh. I'm going to go through and mount some of these thumbtacks in this cork board. And this particular corkboard is not super friendly. It's a little tough to get thumbtacks in, but it works well enough for this. What you're noticing is as I'm putting the thumbtacks down, I'm not pushing them all the way into the corkboard. What I'm doing is just kind of pushing them in halfway. Reason for this is that it allows you to paint, for like some of the finished ones that I have here, really easily all across the top of the thumbtack without having to, adjust it. If it's pushed all the way in, you're going to have a hard time painting the edges and you might miss some spots. So it's easier to do it if they're not fully pushed into the board. You'll see I've mounted some thumbtacks here to the cork board. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to take my paint container. I have some paint in here already, but it's a little low, so give this a nice shake. Okay, just add a little bit there. Okay, so got some paint in my container here. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to dip my brush in some paint. You honestly do not have to be neat with this at all. You can be as messy as you want when it comes to painting the tops of these, unless you want them to come out super perfect. I honestly speed paint all of my thumbtacks, just like globbing on paint really quickly. I let it dry, and if it needs a second coat, I'll put a second coat on, but if not, I just can let it dry and then move on to the next part of the craft. So there we go. We've got some thumbtacks that are already done, in addition to the ones that I just did. So what I can do is I can get started showing you how to make the egg itself. Clean my brush really quick. I'm actually reusing an old K-cup pod as a water container. I always advocate for reusing materials wherever you can and trying to give things a second life so that they don't just end up in a dumpster. So I actually had some expired K-cups and I dumped out the contents, and I'm using them as water holders for brushes, or actually organizers for lots of little pieces I have. I have a ton of art stuff in my home space, so these are really great to organize stuff. Alright, so for making the egg itself, you'll notice that if I look at the finished one here, this is kind of going from the bottom up. So I started from the bottom of the egg and then worked my way up. And that's what we're going to do here. So I'm going to take, what's out of here, my first thumbtack, that's already painted. And I'm going to try to find the center of this. You don't need to be perfect. That's not something we're aiming for here, but that looks pretty close to the center. So I'm just going to push it right down into the styrofoam. Okay, so that is the first scale on our dragon eggs. So what you do now is you're going to take each of your thumbtacks and move in a circular pattern around the egg. And what this is going to do is, as you can see from this one, it creates a really nice layered effect. And it gives it that appearance of actual reptilian scales. So the best way to measure this too is that you'll notice that these are all pretty evenly done. There isn't really any variation in how far apart these different tacks are. So there's a little trick to get it to looking even. What you do is you take the pointed part here of the tack and put it flush up against the edge of the other tack. And what I'm going to do is slowly work my way around. I'm going to take this little push pin end and I'm going to line it up where these two meet, right about there. I'm going to push it down. And then what I'm going to do is just keep working all the way around in a circle. So take the push pin part, line it up with the corner of where the two of these meet, right in that little corner space there, and push it in. Now you're going to keep doing this all around the egg in a circular motion. You can work clockwise, counterclockwise, whatever works for you. Okay, and there you have it. There is one complete dragon egg, scales all the way around. So the next and final step for this is to add some Mod Podge. So this is going to hold all of these scales on and together. So doing that is super easy. Now that I have just my egg here, I have my paintbrush, I have some Mod Podge, which I think I'm gonna give this a shake. I haven't used it in a while. So what the Mod Podge is going to do is it is going to hold all of these tacks in place. So this one, I actually did the scales in a slightly different direction than my pink one here, but even still, they both have a really nice looking result. And this one, thanks to the color shift paint, when the light hits it in certain spots, it looks gold, but otherwise it looks black, which is really cool. And what I'm gonna do is just dab my brush in the paint here and literally just brush the Mod Podge onto the top. The Mod Podge will dry clear, and this is the gloss version, so it is going to give it even more sheen than it already has. This has some nice sheen already thanks to the fact that it's metallic paint, but the Mod Podge is going to make it pop even more. You want to kind of get Mod Podge in all of the different spaces here, just so that you know that everything's going to stay in place. So I usually give it a very nice coating If you're working without like a stand or anything, you can kind of let that sit on its side for a while, wait for it to dry, and then flip it over and work on the other side. And this really is an important step because you don't want the tacks coming out, especially if you're using them for maybe an Easter egg hunt or even as decor. You don't want it to like drop and then have tacks all over the place. The tack sticks sort of well into the foam, but not well enough. So this is definitely something you want to do. I'm going to let my egg dry here for a bit, but after it does finally dry, you will have a really nice finished result. Thank you all very much for sitting in through this little Crafter's Corner demonstration. I hope you're able to make some really cool dragon eggs and have some fun. Thanks for watching, and I hope these come out awesome for you.